December 7th, 1941. A date which will live in infamy. We all know the story of Pearl Harbor, but do we really know the full story? Today we peeling back the layers of history to uncover the untold story of America's darkest day. This isn't just about the attack itself, it's about the why, the how, and the what came next that forever changed the world. So why did Japan risk everything to attack the United States? It wasn't a decision made overnight. For years, tensions had been simmering. The US had imposed a crippling oil embargo on Japan in response to its expansion in Asia. For a nation with limited natural resources, this was an economic death sentence. Japan's military leaders saw a stark choice: either retreat from their ambitions or launch a preemptive strike to cripple the US Pacific Fleet. Buying them time to secure the resources they needed in Southeast Asia, they gambled on a single, decisive blow. But could the attack have been prevented? The shocking answer is, possibly. There were warning signs, whispers in the intelligence community that something big was coming. US codebreakers had cracked Japanese diplomatic codes, revealing that negotiations were a sham and that a major military action was imminent. A message was even sent to Washington just hours before the attack, but due to a series of blunders and delays, the warning never reached Pearl Harbor in time. There was also a report of a sighted Japanese midget submarine near the harbor entrance early that morning, which was sunk by the USS Ward. Yet this critical alert was also not acted upon with the urgency it deserved. It was a catastrophic failure of imagination and communication. As these warnings were being missed, a massive Japanese naval force was secretly steaming across the Pacific. Under strict radio silence, 6 aircraft carriers, accompanied by battleships, cruisers, and destroyers, had sailed from Japan in late November. It was an audacious plan, a naval force larger than any ever assembled for a single mission. They navigated a treacherous northern route, avoiding common shipping lanes to remain undetected. The fleet, known as the Kido Butai, was a ghost on the ocean, poised to unleash hell from the sky. On the morning of December 7th, the sky over Oahu was clear and blue. At 7:55 a.m., the first wave of 183 Japanese planes, torpedo bombers, and dive bombers, and fighters appeared over the horizon. Their targets were the battleships lined up on Battleship Row. The USS Arizona was hit by an armor-piercing bomb that detonated its forward magazine, creating a cataclysmic explosion and sinking the ship in minutes, entombing over 1,000 of its crew. The USS Oklahoma capsized after being hit by multiple torpedoes, trapping hundreds of men inside. About an hour later, the second wave of 171 planes struck, targeting remaining ships and airfields to ensure no American planes could get airborne to counterattack. The attack was a textbook military operation, precise, devastating, and ruthlessly efficient. In less than 2 hours, the heart of the US Pacific Fleet was a smoldering ruin. So why was the fleet such a sitting duck? The ships were moored tightly together in the harbor, making them easy targets. The ammunition was locked up, and many of the anti-aircraft guns were unmanned. American commanders believed any attack would come from sabotage by local Japanese sympathizers, not from a full-scale aerial assault. The planes at the nearby airfields were parked wingtip to wingtip, a precaution against sabotage. But this made them perfect targets for strafing Japanese fighters. It was a tragic underestimation of the enemy's capabilities and intentions. But even amidst the chaos and surprise, heroes emerged. While bombs rained down, sailors, many of them just teenagers, fought back with incredible courage. On the USS Nevada, the crew managed to get underway, trying to escape the harbor. Though it was eventually beached to avoid blocking the channel, its fight became a symbol of defiance. On the USS West Virginia, Mess Attendant Second Class Doris Dory Miller, who had no training with the weapon, manned a .50 caliber machine gun and shot down several enemy planes before being ordered to abandon ship. Ground crews scrambled to get any flyable planes into the air, with a handful of American pilots managing to engage the attackers in desperate dogfights against overwhelming odds. In the immediate aftermath, Pearl Harbor was a scene of utter devastation. Thick black smoke choked the air, fires burned out of control, and the harbor was slick with oil and debris. Over 2,400 Americans were killed, and nearly 1,200 were wounded. Communication lines were down, and for a while no one was sure if the Japanese were going to follow up with a land invasion. Panic and confusion reigned, not just in Hawaii, but all the way to Washington, D.C. the next day. President Franklin D. Roosevelt addressed a stunned nation in a joint session of Congress. His powerful speech, declaring December 7th a date which will live in infamy, galvanized the country. Before the attack, America was deeply divided about entering World War II. After Pearl Harbor, that division vanished overnight. The attack united the nation behind a common cause. Congress declared war on Japan with only one dissenting vote, and just days later, Germany and Italy declared war on the United States, officially pulling America into the global conflict. Of course, with any event this monumental, conspiracy theories are bound to arise. The most famous one is that FDR knew the attack was coming and let it happen to provide a backdoor into the war. Proponents point to the missed intelligence and the fact that America's aircraft carriers were conveniently out at sea on training maneuvers, sparing them from the attack. However, no credible evidence has ever proven this theory. Most historians agree that while there were intelligence failures, it was a result of incompetence and miscalculation, not a deliberate plot. The carriers being absent was simply a stroke of incredible luck. The long-term impact of Pearl Harbor was profound. The attack shattered the myth of American invincibility and forced the nation to transform into the military and industrial superpower we know today. The mantra, "Remember Pearl Harbor," became a rallying cry that fueled the American war effort. Strategically, the attack was a short-term victory for Japan, but a long-term disaster. It awoke a sleeping giant, as Japanese Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto famously feared. The loss of battleships forced the U.S. Navy to embrace a new kind of naval warfare, one centered on the very weapon Japan had used against them, the aircraft carrier. This shift would prove decisive in the Pacific War, leading to victories at Midway and beyond, ultimately spelling the doom of the Japanese Empire. Pearl Harbor wasn't just an attack. It was the event that reshaped the 20th century. See you next time.